Thanks very much, Sue. Hi, everyone. Well, do we innovate or do we procrastinate? Implementing change can be challenging, but what are the costs if we don't? If we innovate, we may make mistakes, but we create opportunities to be dynamic, to break new ground, and remain relevant in an era where it is becoming critical to demonstrate our value and return on investment to our universities. If we procrastinate, we run the risk of failing to meet our customer needs, falling behind with technological innovations, and as a result, we'll lose credibility and relevance. The University of South Australia, just to give you a little bit of context, over 32,000 students ranging from undergrad, postgrad, PhD. We are located on 4 metropolitan campuses, including 2 regional campuses. We also have students externally, online, and we are in a number of collaborations with institutions overseas. The transformation of library inquiry services at UniSA was customer-driven and evidence-based, and technology has been its facilitator, driver and enabler. Technology has not only provided the environment in which change could be made, it has driven the need for change, enabled us to implement change, and is the mechanism by which we are delivering and evaluating the service. UniSA Library prides itself on having a history of being at the forefront of implementing new initiatives and being early adopters of relevant technologies. I think I should also add that the university is only 25 years old as well. When UniSA introduced its law program over 10 years ago, the decision was made then to develop a predominantly e-collection. This was relatively controversial at the time because obviously law is a traditionally conservative discipline based very much around the tradition of print and using print resources. And at the time we were one of the few libraries in Australia to have such a large and comprehensive electronic collection. And importantly, the sky did not fall in. Okay, also in 2011 we adopted a digital preferred policy to address the teaching and research needs of our community at the time and our ever increasing geographically dispersed clientele. So more and more now our clientele are not coming on our physical campuses. They are in fact overseas, externally. They might be local but they choose not to come in. So we can't base all of our service delivery around the old traditional bricks and mortar library anymore. So what we did was, as you can see there from the figures, we increased our e-book collection, and as a result the usage of e-books increased dramatically, more so than ever we would have had with a print collection. The print collection, the loans dropped dramatically, and as a result we were able to remove large chunks of our print book collection, and we continue to do that annually. The other graph there shows you the library collections in 2014. That was the tipping point where the print and the electronic were about even, and ever since then electronic is outstripping print, and as I say, we are continually removing our print collections. And also what we're trying to do is bring in innovations like patron-driven acquisitions and evidence-based acquisitions as well. So very much still client-focused and building the collection based on what the clients want rather than what we think they want. So this has all provided the opportunity to repurpose our spaces, and those of you who attended Di Hodge's presentation yesterday would have seen what we did around those spaces. and of course a number of us are going down that path in repurposing our spaces. Importantly, what we're finding in the library is that there's more teaching happening in the library spaces now, particularly around collaborative teaching and group teaching as well, and group work. Also within our spaces, people are bringing their own devices, as you can see here, using our spaces differently. The centre image is the UniSA student app, which was launched in 2015, where the students designed this, and the idea being it was a one-stop shop for UniSA services, and the library is a part of that app, and students can access the catalogue, borrowing, they can book study rooms, etc. The other things that have been occurring that have made this transformation possible, I know most of you probably use LibGuides. We have for many, many years now embedded our information literacy programs into course content. We know we haven't delivered generic programs for many, many years. And what we're finding that by embedding assignment help within online resources like the LibGuides, they're getting accesses like we would never have had at face-to-face at our desks. And of course these give the opportunity for interaction with staff as well. We've also developed a lot of other self-service options. Self-service loans, of course, most of our collection is now RFID. People can borrow the books themselves. They don't need a desk. The holds are just placed on open shelves. High demand is placed on open shelves, and students can come and borrow those. Interlibrary loans are placed on open shelves as well. And guess what? Even though we don't have any desks anymore, and we don't have people at our gates checking to see who has borrowed, yes, a lot of material has gone out without being borrowed, but of course we can track that with our RFID machines, and we've found, surprisingly, most of it gets returned. About 95% gets returned. But it's making that step, going down that path and making that decision to do that. Also things like the digital wayfinder, where students can actually navigate around buildings themselves and also use that facility to book study rooms or book other rooms in the building. At our campuses, we also introduced laptop locker systems to allow students to borrow laptops and return them themselves. Most of our campuses are now open extended hours. One campus in particular is 24 hours, which means, of course, now they don't need to go to a staff member to borrow. We also did other things like, of course, moving a lot of print forms online. And then in 2015, we added some additional questions to the InSync survey around what our clients expect from us. And what we found was that 70% of our clients prefer to interact with us via email, chat or phone. And in fact, only 3% were coming into the library to speak to a physical person, that they were mostly using the library for study research. So that led us to making the next big step, which was to replace all of our service desks with a combination of services. So we no longer have any type of desk, inquiries desk, reference desk, service desk. So these have now gone and been replaced with a number of other services. Predominantly the service points, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment, the pop-ups, which can actually be relocated to anywhere on campus, and we particularly use those at busy times of year, like orientation, when assignments are due. But importantly, we take those outside of the library. The whole point of this service was premised on the library anywhere, anytime, on any device. So what we found that what our clients wanted, our customers wanted, was for us to go to them rather than them come to us, and for us to provide help to them at point of need, so when they want it, not when we think they need it. So what also we did was in 2013, the library and IT were brought together to report to the Chief Information Officer. So we don't have a university librarian, we have a Chief Information Officer who's responsible for library and IT. Now this brought a lot of synergies because we were able now, we always used to work collaboratively, but now because of the change to the governance structure, we're now working a lot more closer. And as you know, if you work in libraries, we are moving down the technology path a lot more. And to be able to work a lot closer with IT on similar projects has made it a lot easier to get things done. And you'll notice there with the service points that it is a joint service Ask Library IT, and that is because we're now collaborating together. But we worked with IT to develop those service points, and in particular, how they were to work. The service points are all-in-one computers with a phone, a video cam for video conferencing, and importantly the screen share software. What of course it meant was in the back room, the staff had to have all of that related software loaded onto their machines as well, so that they could operate the service. Importantly, when we were looking for a location, identifying location for these service points, we were able to use the results of a big data analytics exercise that IT did in our biggest city campus at the Jeffrey Smart building. So we were able to identify how students were moving through our buildings by seeing how they were using the wireless network on their devices. So that then gave us we were then able to identify where we wanted to place our service points to get the maximum traffic as students moved through the building. The other big change we had to do was deliver the service it moved from being delivered from one team to all teams in the library. I mentioned that we're on 4 campuses, so that means not only 4 teams now delivering the service, but also our technical services team as well. So we've now got 5 teams delivering the service, and the flow chart you see there was us developing how we're managing to provide that service across 4 teams. But the advantage of this is that if someone rings at a particular campus, the system works so that the local campus picks up the call first, but if they're not available, then that immediately goes to the next person in the queue. So the customer maybe could end up speaking to someone from another campus, but because we've got the technology behind there supporting us, that doesn't really matter because they can still provide that service. But it does mean we don't need to be relying on full staffing across all our campuses all the time. The other thing we did was we did a comprehensive review of our virtual reference services in 2015, and we evaluated and trialled against a set of criteria. We particularly chose not to go with a library-specific virtual reference service, but instead a commercial one related more to business operations, commercial organisations, because it was exceptionally customer-focused in how it uses its proactive chat triggers and also the types of data and analytics we could get from it. So we went from, we had a virtual reference service in the past, but it was just basically putting a widget on a page, but it wasn't proactive. It required the customer to initiate the query, whereas now the proactive feature allows when a customer's on the web page for a certain time, and we can set that trigger, then it will pop up saying, "Can we help you?" And we can contextualise that depending on the screen that they're in. So how has this impacted? Well, the biggest impact has been the increase in chat interactions, and you'll see the statistics there, and I've highlighted particular months throughout the year where the change was quite huge, but it's basically working the way we wanted it to work. People are asking for help at point of need. It's instant, quick, no need for them to come to a desk, and convenience. And if you look in the literature, that is what people want, is it's the convenience of help. They don't want to have to come in. They want to be able to get the help there and then as they need it. And also, as we expected, and also confirmed in the literature, the complexity of chats increased as a result of the proactive chat feature being placed on the, well, we actually placed it on all of the web pages. We started off with only 5 initially to see how it went, but then we rolled that out to all of our web pages. And what we're finding is that we are getting the increased complexity of questions, and it's the type of questions why we are all here for, to help with those deep reference type questions, because we don't necessarily want to always help with the general directional or operational type questions when they can self-serve themselves. And the other thing that we're doing too behind all of this is building up the help centre or knowledge base. Okay, so it was really critical to determine whether the new service model was meeting the needs of our customers. So we put in a few feedback mechanisms. We've always had a feedback page on the library web, however we redesigned it to make it more user-friendly. We put additional mechanisms in place. This included installing iPads in every campus library to encourage feedback, producing promotional material, competitions to encourage people to provide feedback, updating our service charter and making that more visible for transparency and accountability. And importantly, the new virtual reference service allows for easy and immediate feedback following a reference interaction. And this is what's also been phenomenal. So not only has the number of chats increased, the feedback we're getting from our customers has just blown out. In 2015 with the old chat, because it was quite cumbersome to get feedback, to extract feedback or encourage feedback from customers, we only got 104. But in 2016, you can see there are over 1,000 responses. And the other advantage with the chat feature is that people don't have to provide a comment. They can either do a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So at least we're getting something from them, which is really good. And from those, from the thumbs up, thumbs down, some people choose to leave a comment, others don't. And then, of course, we always follow that up. And then, of course, this year we're going to be adding those additional questions back into the InSync survey, so we can then track it to see how we've gone from 2015. Okay, so this was also really, really good. In the not only can we get the comments in the feedback, but in the chat transactions, we were also getting really, really good feedback just within the transactions. And so this is just the sort of thing that we were hoping to get from students. We didn't pay them to say that, but I love that one about I'm not going to be emailing or Facebooking other students. They're actually going to be using this service. So I think that's fantastic. And these are some of the other really positive comments that we've got, but also reflective of exactly the sort of thing we were setting out to achieve, that they can do this from home, that, you know, they don't have to wait for business hours. It's great for external students. It's convenient. And this student here, I don't want to do face-to-face talking, because that was, of course, one of the concerns when we removed our service desk, was that loss of face-to-face interaction, which was one of the reasons we put the webcam on, so we could at least replicate that in the virtual sense. But there's a lot of people that didn't actually want to come up and have a face-to-face interaction. We also got a lot of feedback from our web and iPads, but admittedly there, a lot of this feedback was not related to inquiry services. This was related to lots of other things. However, this is the flow-on effect. It's been good to get feedback about other library services as well. 94 in 2015, over 1,000 responses. So this is just what we want. The virtual reference software also provides a lot of statistics and reports, which we can use for, obviously, for continuous service improvement. And we're now collecting statistics a lot more comprehensively than we ever had before. So it does mean we can really get a sense of where our high touch points are, you know, where we could improve, that sort of thing. Some of the other outcomes have been the whole one team approach. As I said before, we now have the whole team, the whole library delivering the service. So there is a real sense of we're all in it together, we'll all share and contribute to this, we'll all help each other. So it has really built up that whole team approach rather than everyone being in their silos. The service has meant that we can increase our opening hours. And so we've now done that across all of our libraries. They're not staffed. The buildings are not staffed. The 4 campuses will open. There'll be one person delivering the service, and that one person will be in a back room. They will not be in a library, but they will be available for all those people that come into the campus to help. And because of that laptop locker system that we've got across our 4 campuses, laptop loans have just gone through the roof because available nearly all the time. Lessons learned. I really could empathise, sympathise with Sue's talk earlier, because everything she said we went through. So when we're initiating change, it is critical to get people on board and involved early on and keep the momentum going. So we created the sense why we were doing it. We got staff involved. We talked about why we were doing it. We provided them with the evidence. They could see the evidence themselves. They were sitting at the desks and no one was coming up anymore. They could see that our clients were changing in the way their needs, you know, that they were going online, they're doing things differently. Staff were, it was a cultural change because staff were challenged to question long-held beliefs about traditional library practices and approaches to services. Some grieved over the loss of the desk. We had lots of good conversations about what is good customer service and talks about it, you know, the goal is the same, it's just the methodology that's changing because we haven't moved away from providing one-to-one help and going speak to people, but we do that if it's required. So that is still there. And we had to sort of, staff had to go through a process before they realised, yes, this is okay because this is what people want. It also showed the need for a learning culture where library staff are supported through the change process. So we did that as much as we could through different workshops and resilience training, etc. It exposed skill gaps. So we developed a skills matrix where we could identify where those gaps were. Everyone came up to speed. And we've also, like I said, developing that learning culture, which will be ongoing. But it was certainly important to keep that communication, the collaboration, getting them involved in the process so that they had ownership of the process, but also to closing that whole communication gap. Okay, last slide. Where to from here? Well, it's continuous service improvement. It's not going to stop. There's lots of things we're going to be doing. We're only 15 months into the new operation, so we need to look at our analytics a lot more and see how we can improve on our web pages, our knowledge base, the help centre. We want to put proactive chat into the UniSA student app. We want to reduce the number of email contact points, so we want to start diverting more people straight into the one spot to contact us. And we want to do remote login to student PCs across all of the campuses. So we don't even want them to have to go to those service points. We want them sitting where they are and then they can connect to us that way. And because of that, once again, that partnership with IT, we can do that trial with them. So Has our ambitious plan to use technology to make our services more visible and accessible worked? Well, we believe it has, because it now provides help on demand at any time, and our customers are telling this is exactly what they want. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Juile. It should be a perfect time. We do have a few minutes for questions before lunch.
We are really happy to come along today. Just a question about the virtual presence software.
Yes.
And all the software you use for online service.
Yes.
Is it that question for the software logo that I've seen?
Oh, that was our old software. Yeah, that was the old one, yeah, and we moved to Zendesk. Yeah.
You mentioned that it's all the time, so are people at home, like working from home?
Yeah. We've got people, we've extended our hours, so we've basically got the service operating from 8:30 in the morning to 9 at night at the moment, though we're going to be extending that to midnight next year. When there isn't anyone there, the query gets pushed to the knowledge base, and the knowledge base is built up from all the different interactions that we've had with students. So you know, those commonly asked, it's like an FAQ basically. Yeah. Yep. It goes into an email then, yeah, and then in the morning the people will pick it up, yeah. And what's really important about the whole chat service is that if the query, you know, the nature of chat is that it's supposed to be quick, and yet I'm saying, you know, we found that the questions increased in complexity. So that was part of the whole training with staff, is that identifying when to move it from a chat to either an email or to encourage an individual appointment. So that was part of the training as well.
You also mentioned ILL.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Yes, yeah. Yep. And you know, we just gave it a go. We thought, you know, because when we moved into our new building, which Di spoke about yesterday, Jeffrey Smart, the desks were on the next level up, so yet the gates were on level 1, and so there was no way we could challenge people going out, and the alarms were going off. But we at least were able to find out how much went. But it was amazing how much comes back. So I think it really does challenge the way we think, you know, that we think that everyone's going to pinch things and not bring them back. But people do bring them back. We've got to have a bit of faith, yeah. Yeah, yes. They can, they're not at the moment. They're not at the moment, but there certainly is that potential, because it's just it's a matter of getting the software on their machines, and of course that whole you know, work safe, you know, the OC health and safety, those sorts of issues that need. But there's no reason why they can't in the future. Yeah.